There was probably a name for this type of behavior in psychology textbooks, she decided. Come in, Simon. A smile lit his face, although he seemed too shy to look at her. That face could break a heart, she thought. It was suddenly hard to think of him as a murderer. You had better sit down, she said, and wondered where to take him. She led him to the den, and he gazed around as he followed her. Would you like something to drink? She was unaware of his new role as hostess. He glanced at her, then smiled faintly. I've been fed at the breast of death, and no other food now can sustain me. She giggled nervously. Is that a yes or no? Good grief. Listen to me, she thought. How sophisticated. Sorry, he said stiffly. It's something I wrote once. I never thought I'd see the day when an opportunity arose to use it. I couldn't resist. He writes? Her eyebrows went up a little. I'm not illiterate, he said, piqued at catching her surprise, and another of his swift glances, and I don't want any of your beverages. Well, I think I'll have something. She left to get a Coke. He's as jittery as I am, she thought. She took her time in the kitchen, time to steady her nerves and take a few deep breaths. When she came back, he was fiddling with the radio. The painting he had carried in was propped up on the couch. He found a rock station that seemed to suit him and came over to stand next to her in front of the gilt-framed portrait. He still wouldn't look at her. It was beginning to bother her. He reached out as if to put an arm around her shoulders, and she stepped aside hastily. No, he said, sounding anxious to reassure her. I just want your necklace. She wondered why, so she stood still as his fingers nimbly untied the knot and freed the crucifix around her neck. He dangled it gingerly by its ribbon at arm's length, and for the first time since he had entered, looked her full in the face. Without taking his eyes from her, he deposited the crucifix in a ceramic jar on the coffee table with uncanny accuracy. The dress is beautiful, but that thing doesn't suit you. She was angry but afraid to protest. Let it lie, she thought. It's not important enough to fight over. And she moved away to sit in an easy chair with the coffee table between them. To her relief, he didn't follow, but sat on the couch and looked around the room. He relaxed in the cushions like a cat at home, all nervousness now gone. He seemed especially interested in the paintings on the wall. He rubbed his hands as if warming them by a fire. I have a painting, too, he said unnecessarily. The Romans filled the air around them with pulsing music. I love rock, he said. I have ever since it started. There's something elemental about it. It's the pounding of blood through the veins. Before that, there was the blues and jazz. I like that too, but not this way. Not this heart-thumping way. They didn't allow music in the village I was born in, but I've had plenty of time to make it up since. Psychotherapy, psychotherapy, the lyrics pounded. He turned dreamily to face the painting he had set up on the couch. I wanted you to see this. Slow motion, Zoe thought. Come look. He beckoned her. Curiosity lured her, and she knelt on the floor in front of the couch, pushing the small glass-topped table askew with her feet. The frame was battered and chipped, and one corner had been crushed. The painting within looked old. It was a family portrait. A stern man in black with a large white collar stood by a chair where a woman, also in black, sat with a baby in her lap. A small boy of about 6 stood proudly in front of his father, dressed in the same severe clothes. He reminded her of someone. The painting was full of shadows. The furniture was sensible and their expressions somber. Well, perhaps not the woman's. It seemed like she was trying very hard not to smile. Her eyes sparkled, as if she were too merry to stay solemn for long. Zoe looked up questioningly at Simon. My family, he said. You mean your ancestors? My parents and brother. Zoe frowned. She wasn't sure if she really felt like dealing with this. Like those fake old photos you can have taken? She asked, dressed up like cowboys or something. Simon turned the painting around and handed it to her. There was a faded brown writing on the back, a date, 1651, and words that curled in unexpected ways. Edmund Bristol, gentleman, and his lady wife. She couldn't read this part. Their sons, unintelligible again. It was a year old Raleigh came back behind a Scottish army, Simon said. She stared at him. He became Charles II, he explained, but not that year. Cromwell sent him running at Worcester. Zoe waved him quiet, impatiently. What does that prove? People can fake that stuff. He took back the painting firmly and turned it around again. He looked at it longingly. That's me, he said, pointing at the baby. Oh no, she thought. And that's your killer, he said, pointing at the other child. My brother, Christopher. How can you expect me to believe that? She cried, and started to stand up. He grabbed her hands in an icy grip and held her there while he awkwardly slid the painting between the end table and the couch. This was a mistake, she thought, a stupid mistake. He waits by dark places, Simon continued. Oh no, it's not you. Please, it's not you, Zoe begged silently. He tells women he's lost, then he takes advantage of their kind hearts. Simon's eyes burned, terrifying her. He leads them into the dark and slaughters them, then cuts their throats. His grip tightened with the urgency of his words. He looks like a child, but he's old as sin, and he's bloated with filth and corruption. They think he's only a child. Zoe grew colder and colder as if the chill of his hand were seeping into her. She saw back to the little boy at the alley's mouth talking to Lorraine. I'm lost, he had told her. She trembled. He's tricking me somehow, she thought. But no, she never told him about that. How could he know? My God, she realized it could have been Lorraine dying there dead. No, it wasn't true. He killed my mother, Simon was saying. She was overjoyed to have him again, but he killed his own mother in the filthiest way. And he knew who she was. I have followed him for a long time, and now I have found him. But I failed, Zoe. I tried to kill him, and I failed. What am I to do? Let me go, she wanted to scream. His grip softened. His hand moved up her arm. She tried to move back, but found herself leaning forward instead. She saw a crackling of summer lightning in his eyes, the heat lightning she had felt that night he walked her home. He needed her. After weeks of not feeling needed by others, it seemed welcome. His lips touched hers, cool, soft, almost chaste. I can't believe I'm doing this, she thought. He moaned slightly as if it were his first kiss. Long denied, and she gently folded into him while he put his arms around her. Her mouth parted, he nibbled her lip. Ouch! She pushed him away. His eyes were large, dark, and compelling. He blinked, and suddenly she felt like she was waking from a dream. He looked ashamed. I'm sorry, he said. I made you kiss me. I wasn't going to. I wanted you to come to me of your own free will, but the chance was slipping away. I was afraid I was losing any chance with you. That's absurd, she said indignantly. You didn't make me kiss you. Her heart beat fast, and her lip tingled where he had bitten her. What makes you think you could do that? I'm not like you, he said. I'm not human anymore, I think. She frowned. She didn't want to be reminded of his strangeness. She wanted to be held and to forget it. She had never enjoyed a kiss like that before. She climbed up beside him on the couch, but embarrassed by her desire to be kissed, she found she couldn't look at him directly. She absently brushed her mouth, and it left a smear of blood on her hand. He leaned to her and gently licked her lip. She felt like she was melting, but he shivered as if he were cold. She pulled back, afraid of a response. I will tell you a story, he said, with a slight tremble to his voice, and then you will believe me.